My dudes, your boy Free Speed here, Scotty Town Send It. It's been a minute since I've posted anything. Two reasons for that. I drowned my quad, my 6S rig, which I only flew 4 batteries on with Sketch. Greg was lucky enough or sensible enough not to fly. And my GoPro, I lost a GoPro. I was kind enough to receive a GoPro Session 4, which I repaired. Don't have the coin at the moment to buy a new camera, even though you got your Runcam 5s and Foxeer Box 2s and that pretty cheap, but you still can't beat GoPro quality, I feel. So I fixed a Session 4 and lost that as soon as I fixed it because it wasn't waterproof anymore. I do have my quad back. 6S rig. I've got 2 6S rigs back in the air now. I have since fixed the waterlogged GoPro Session, and so this video is going to be about how to pull it apart successfully. You're going to need a few spare GoPros, how to diagnose, a bit of trial and error, nothing's too fancy or flash, how to diagnose what's wrong with it, what parts you need to replace and swap to successfully get your Session working again, because in Australia they're, you know, rare as hen's teeth. Discontinued as well, you know, Session 5, so if you want to repair your Session 5s you can use this same tutorial as well. So boys, let's get going. Alright guys, here's a brief rundown on how to decase a Session. For a more in-depth tutorial on it, go see Project Blue Falcon. He did one and that's what I used. Rest in peace champion, but that's what I used to pull this apart. So you're going to need a little hex set. This is a T4 the size, which will do all the security screws to take your lens protector off, a small Phillips head, and I use small flat screwdrivers to pry with, a hobby knife, you know, probably a bit of isopropyl and a toothbrush if you need to clean anything up. So to start, you will also need a heat gun as well. So what I do to start, obviously take your SD card out. You need to have the latch open because that will hold the case on as well. And I avoid the actual lens, but I circle around heating all the aluminium because there is glue there. It's just glued together, and then I go around all the rubber. So you can also use the knife as it's looking towards you, the bottom right corner near the door. Cut away at some of that so you can have a little bit more room to pry. So once it's hot, you've cut away a little bit, then you can try and you need to kind of push up and then pry. So you dig around until you get it. You'll probably pop, you know, start getting a bit of movement in there and pop one side up a tiny little bit. Then I like to jam the sharp object that you're prying with and then use the other flathead screwdrivers to help pry it around, giving more heat. Patience is key, guys, with this. The more patient you are, the cleaner, you know, you will separate the back case and be able to use that. So once you pull it apart, it is nice and tight in there, all the components. Just be nice and gentle. You might have to give the case a little bit of a squeeze because it generally gets caught up on where the battery is soldered to the main board. So you've got your negative, your balance, and your positive wire there, so you'll need to desolder that. So now diagnosing kind of what's wrong. So this camera wasn't turning on at all, and when I went to charge it to see if the LED had come on, this little chip was getting hot in the main board. So, you know, I've decased a spare board. I had a spare and I just swapped that part and away it went. So once the battery's off, and then obviously you need to solder it back on. So behind the battery is the image sensor. Like, you've got a metal plate that protects the image sensor, stops it all getting crushed. So this is what the image sensor looks like. with the lens housing and the actual lens. Now they're all glued pretty tight. Don't bother trying to pull out the lens if you've broken one of these lenses. Swap the whole image sensor. Now if your image sensor is broken, you normally get that on-off recording, like it will start recording, then it will stop, and then the camera will just keep turning itself on and off constantly. It's usually a sign your image sensor is damaged. Now if you've got an image sensor damaged but it's got a cracked lens, what you do is you heat up the image sensor and your lens housing, and you remove that. Now once it's removed, you'll have obviously the plastic housing, and then that's the image sensor, the damaged one. And then I go ahead and glue the new lens that's not broken with the housing onto the image sensor, getting it exactly in the same place the original one was, because you know, if it's sticking out too far, or it'll blur your image. But you need to pull the whole camera apart to get to that, to get to your lens. The lens bolts onto the front aluminium case, so it's the last thing that comes off. Okay, so don't be shy, don't be scared. Lay out all your parts as you take them off in order, and then just reverse that order to pull it all back. You have to put it all back together to make sure it works. That's the frustrating bit. So it's a little bit of trial and error, guys, when you're doing it. I do have another GoPro with SD error, so you know, obviously use your parts GoPro that you're using, and take out the SD card and your USB charger port and replace it if needed. That's the best way to do it, guys, is just trial and error. Obviously if you've got a broken display, just to swap that with a good display out of your parts camera. If your parts camera and your good camera have got the same issue, then you're not going to fix it. You've got to have good parts, obviously, from a spare camera to fix it with. Battery swaps are easy, so if you've pulled out a dud battery, you know, that's an easy one to fix. It's not that complicated, guys. Just when you do go to put it all back together and you get it working, when you solder your battery back on, keep those wires and your solder joints as low as possible, because your housing, they'll foul, get stuck on the housing, and you don't want to be jamming anything back together. So there's a brief rundown, guys, on how to pull it apart, how, you know, the problems that you normally do, and how you can fix them. Before replacing parts too, just check that all your ribbon cables are attached. There's a few of them there. They're not too hard to fix. It's just, if you can pull it apart cleanly, that's half your battle done, guys. Well, there you have it, my dudes. That's how you fix a broken session. Back to you, fuckers.